Okay. It is now 4 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Planning Board for December 4th, 2019, for discussion of the board, or from the board, comments, concerns, questions, anything in regards to the consideration of the draft generic environmental impact statement for the City of Plattsburgh downtown area improvement projects. Before we get started, if we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Once again, this is general discussion for Planning Board. There's not a public hearing associated with this, although it is a public meeting. So, for this application, I guess to start out, I've reviewed the general outline of it based on, right on page 2 of the drafted generic environmental impact statement. Project sponsored and participating consultants. My firm, Architectural Engineering Design Associates, is part of the 2 projects, which are the parking lot projects, the Arnie Pavone and the Broad Street project. We're designing those projects on behalf of the city, so I feel that as far as even offering comment in regards at least to this document, since those are considered, that I would recuse myself from this. So I'll leave it to good hands.
Okay, so you're stepping out?
I will step out.
And Loretta's gonna step up. Take a seat, Loretta.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, since I'm temporary chair here, I'm not quite sure how to attack this document. I think the easiest thing, as opposed to going through page by page, which is my natural inclination, which you'd kill me for, I think what we ought to do is, you've looked at it, okay? And probably in here, I'm gonna say, what items have come to your attention that are of concern? What jumps out at you that you think might be a misjudgment? Or, on the other hand, something very positive that you're seeing in here that you agree with? So that's probably the easiest thing, and some people will have different opinions.
Could I ask just one other thing?
Yeah.
I think staff to give us an overview.
And they could,
Project by project would be a nice way to approach it as well.
okay?
Sure.
Could
Would you
mind?
guys like to do that, go project by project and have comments based on what project we're discussing?
It's kind of jumping in terms of, because this is not really organized that way. This is organized by, animals that are gonna be impacted, none, okay?
Sure.
In other words,
So there's the projects and then there's the mitigation measures that the projects were reviewed under. So
Mhm.
we could talk about the projects and then go down each of those requirements under seeker for each project.
okay, let's do it that way.
That makes sense.
So the first project listed in here is the Durkee Lot mixed-use development. I won't read it word for word, but this is the multi-story mixed-use development by Prime Plattsburgh. It is a 200 square foot mixed-use development of approximately 115 apartments, comprised of 52 one-bedroom, 59 two-bedroom, and 4 three-bedroom, and 10,000 square feet of commercial space, an 86 space parking lot featuring 50 public spaces. And also, this development also includes the redevelopment of the former Plattsburgh Farmers and Crafters Market, which is a 2,400 square foot publicly accessible civic space. So the mitigation measures that these projects were reviewed under include land use, community character, zoning and public policy, aquatic and natural resources, municipal utilities, traffic and transportation systems, parking, fiscal and economic conditions, historic and cultural resources, environmental contamination, and recreation and open space. So on page 9, there is a table that outlines the potential impacts of all of the projects as a whole. And I believe the Durkee project on page, I should figure this out before we go to the meeting. Durkee lot mixed-use development is on page 18. So this entire section goes through all of those mitigation measures and compares the project to those. So I don't know if you guys have any comments in that section of the document?
On the table on page 9,
Yes. And all the backup documentation for that project starts on page 18.
starts, I see, yeah.
I disagreed with the, I have no problem with parking as much, okay? I realize a lot of people have bitched about parking, whatever. I have nothing to do with parking. I don't think there's gonna be a parking problem. But I do disagree with, what the flow of traffic will be as people come off Durkee, if Durkee is one way, and you're trying to access the public spaces that are on the Durkee lot, and the only way you can get to those public spaces is if you access them from Durkee by coming from Broad. So if you're some person who's trying to go to dinner at Iris's, you basically have to turn left on Bridge, go down around Pike, whatever, and get yourself back up into Broad to get yourself back up onto Durkee to be able to get either Durkee spaces or Durkee lot, this lot spaces. And the same thing for someone who actually lives in this building. If they're trying to get to the dedicated spaces for the people that live in the building, the only entrance is on Bridge Street. And again, you have to have either come, there's only so many ways you can get to that. And so what I picture is someone making a right-hand turn off Durkee and then just stopping dead as they wait to try to get into whatever parking lot that they're trying to get into. So I realize by making Durkee one way, it gives us more parking spaces and it gives us more wide sidewalks and green spaces, et cetera. But I also just think that three-way intersection right now is terrible. I dreaded it when I took my driving test. And I think it's gonna get worse with this. So it's not so much the parking, it's the flow that kind of upsets me with the fact that only one entrance to get to a certain set of spots and only one other entrance to get a certain set of spots. So that bothers me about this project. I'm not sure if it can be fixed, probably not going to be fixed, but I think there is an adverse impact related to traffic.
If I might add to that, last night, one of the points that was made was that several cities are eliminating one-way streets for exactly the reasons that you're talking about.
Yeah, and if you live here, you're probably okay, because okay?
Right.
But boy, an out-of-towner lost, trying to go to lunch downtown and just can't even figure it out, okay? So that would be my one, I think, really, my one concern regarding the traffic and transportation system.
Can I also make a note? there?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, I agree with you completely. That jumped out at me when I didn't read it carefully like you did, but I read through it, and getting to the south end of the city, for instance, I've got occasion to go down to the base on a regular basis, and going down through there at lunchtime, guaranteed you're going nowhere fast. If you try to go down there between 5 and 6 o'clock, guaranteed you're going nowhere fast. And now you throw in a one-way street on Durkee,
Yep.
it's just gonna totally increase the level of separation between South Plattsburgh and downtown, because there's only one way.
Really.
If you're gonna go through
Go down
downtown.
around J Street and cut through the
Well,
base,
but
I
just going through the downtown
Yeah.
portion is, between in the morning when it's school time, because you've got Stafford right there.
right, and if they just back right up, sometimes
Exactly,
they're
and all
almost,
it takes is one car, and the other thing is, all it takes is one delivery truck to one of the restaurants, and it already comes to all stop.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about people trying to get out of the complex to go to work, if it's in the morning.
out or in, or whatever. they're trying to-
Whatever,
yeah.
you've got people trying to transit to the south end of the city, and the normal way to go is to drive through downtown.
Yep.
And then head down that way, go over the Broad Street Bridge or go over the Bridge Street, but either way, it's just going to, and that's the way I used to bring my kids to school, whether, to bring them over to the middle school.
Yep.
So making that a one-way street, what Reg just said last night really confirmed it for me, that having that as a one-way street is going to paralyze downtown, at the very least.
I would like to
Go
reference you
ahead.
guys to page 145 and 146, which are the tables for the traffic study. You can share. So these two tables look at Durkee Street as a two-way and Durkee Street as a one-way, and compare levels of service. The numbers show that there isn't going to be much of a difference in level of service. And there's also a note here that with a one-way street, there will be improved pedestrian facilities, obviously increased parking availability, and that a one-way street won't have a significant adverse impact on the development.
Again, they say that. We
Sure,
don't have to agree
yeah,
with it, right?
You do not.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
okay,
I
and
just
I
wanted to
realize
reference you
that-
to these tables.
Yes.
Yeah, my
Okay.
experience says that, I looked at those, and my experience says that all it takes is one delivery truck.
Sure.
And the delivery trucks that are gonna have to be going into service the complex, especially if you have some retail there, again, all it takes is one truck offloading, and no one's going anywhere. And if that happens at school time.
They're required
or-
to have an offloading space in their off-street parking for
And if they
deliveries.
can't, yeah, but if they can't get into that,
Sure.
because, I mean, again, it's, anyway, that was my
Any,
biggest
any
concern.
further comment on this particular specific issue?
I'd like to reference the city comprehensive plan if you don't mind. Is there an intent, in the current comprehensive plan to make downtown more of a walkable type area?
Yes, in the comp plan that is identified.
Okay.
Walkability is identified.
Okay, so is this an attempt to achieve that goal?
I think it's in line with it. There'll be improved sidewalks. The one-way will be traffic calming, so hopefully cars will go slower, especially with the connection to the proposed arts park. There'll be a very wide crosswalk there with warnings for people, so hopefully the traffic will slow down. I agree connectivity will not be as great as it is now with two-way, but I think it is in line with the goals of walkability.
Okay.
So with some contention over this issue, there are 3 alternatives in the plan. Part of the environmental impact statement is outlining alternatives and the impact that comes from those. And these are good points. None of the alternatives address traffic routing, which is a major component of the plan. The alternatives there's a no action alternative, totally appropriate. And then the other 2 are a parking garage at Broad and a reducing the residential count and increased commercial square footage, which doesn't, none of those have traffic components. So maybe in addition to addressing, like, we want you to think about these impacts in a revision, maybe consider a new alternative that is a different traffic routing alternative.
I'm just not sure.
I
It's they give up some spaces, they give up some green space, but hopefully the traffic is not as screwed up. Because you still have, I mean, just giving people the option of going both ways on Durkee, I really, really like that, okay? Again, this would just be one of our comments. We're not saying the whole project blows up over this issue, but as someone who drives through that intersection twice a day to get to my office, I know exactly what that traffic is like there.
Yeah.
And I can just see it bad. Also, if the only way you can get into those parking spaces on Durkee or the dedicated public spaces that are gonna be in the Durkee lot is if you access Durkee from Broad and you're coming down the hill from the school and you wanna make a left, then you stop dead and you wait for the traffic that's coming towards you to brake, so that then you can make your left turn to get to the parking places. So I'm thinking there's gonna be more people trying to access Durkee from that end. Instead of from both ends, they're trying to access from that end, and they have stopped traffic that's trying to come down the hill on Broad.
Yep.
That's my other concern with one-way Durkee thing, which I don't think has really been,
They looked at it, I mean, that's what all
Yeah.
these tables are.
yeah, and I gave up, okay? But,
So, I wonder if, in order to kind of like move us along, our job today is to evaluate if they did their impact assessment adequately.
Absolutely, yep.
but I think we're saying that we don't feel this was
No,
fully
I
addressed.
totally agree.
Yeah.
We don't need to solve the problem for them.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Right, we
Yeah.
would just say, look, we think this is an inadequate piece of the impact assessment,
Yeah,
and here are some ways where you could improve it. Consider some different traffic routing alternatives and show
Yeah.
us the impact of those. Or fix this routing,
yeah.
which we think will have a bigger impact than you stated.
I
There's
think
also the-
collectively, we all agree on
Yeah,
that.
and there's
right?
also the
Can we
safety issue
formalize that as?
Yep.
of the
I like
kids,
that.
the kids who are walking
Kurt, is that
down
good?
there. A lot of kids,
We
my
formalize
kids,
that as
as
one.
they got older, walk to
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have kids on Broad Street, you're gonna have,
Yeah,
So traffic routing alternatives.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, would be just the whole Durkee,
with
both
a
ends of Durkee.
consideration to two-way
problems.
traffic on Durkee. I mean,
yep, and it is a consideration, that hasn't been
Yes.
decided yet.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay, so that, and then, again, with this same, Durkee Street parking lot, I know there's some different abbreviation for that, okay, that I have not managed to memorize. Again, the building itself, when I looked at the diagrams, plans, I don't know what you call them,
The renderings.
renderings, color, of course, I'm looking at them in black and white, but I've seen them in color too. And they say that, they think they echo the surrounding buildings, and that they know that it's very important to try to echo what's happening downtown in terms of historic buildings and whatever. And some parts of the buildings are really nice, but the other part, the kind of off-white part or cream-colored part, looks like brutalist architecture to me. Are we trying to resemble West Germany? Okay, East Germany. I don't get where they aesthetically pull that cream-colored section with the indentations and say that it ties to downtown. That's a purely aesthetic decision on my part.
So this is in regards to community character.
This is historic and cultural resources or community character, whichever one it normally fits in, okay?
I would say community character.
Yeah,
Historic
but
resources.
I'm saying, can we change how the outside of the building looks to make it more closely resemble, and again, brick facing,
yes,
brick is downtown, okay?
brick is federal.
Yeah, and it's, some parts are good, some parts are not good in this initial rendering of what the building's gonna look like.
What's the material for the cream-colored portion that they're
Looks
proposing?
like a stucco-y
Yeah, and
thing,
it looked like cement.
yeah, no, which
I
there
hate
isn't.
to jump in here, but these are all comments for like the site plan review when they're
Okay.
actually in front of you
Okay.
guys.
Well, I
This
just
is
wanna
not
give,
going-
in a sense,
not
we're giving
going-
them a heads up, though.
Community character, yes, I agree,
No,
but-
a heads up,
Yep.
cause I don't wanna say that this is okay, and then they say, oh, well, that plan, and that's how the building looked, you okayed it, and it's like, no, I'm getting
Right,
an
we're not
objection
okaying it
in.
tonight.
I'm
Yeah, let's
getting in
make
an
that part of the
objection,
record.
yeah. I wanna say that I've got an objection in here on what that building
Do
actually
you think
looks
that's a
like.
significant adverse impact?
Yes, to what the downtown historic district looks like. And I think it could be changed and not look like that.
How do those things get resolved? I mean, beauty obviously is in the
Well,
eye of the beholder, so I'm just wondering,
well,
you know,
again,
it's a
we have
process, I
a,
understand your point.
yeah,
I'm just wondering how those get resolved as the project moves
We have
forward.
architecture guidelines in our zoning ordinance, but also it's up to the board to make those requests.
But as far as the resolution, in terms of ultimately what that facade looks like.
That's up to you guys.
well, there's a whole
Plus we have our
facade program
architectural-
for downtown, there's a whole, every time somebody borrowed money to rehab something downtown, they had facade requirements they had to stick with. So, why doesn't that apply, okay?
Yeah.
That it isn't,
I think those are probably maybe grant requirements, I'm
I'm
not
just
They
sure.
could have
surprised
been,
that's
but I'm just-
already baked in there.
yeah, I'm just, and it's mentioned in here, I mean, and they mention it with the Fred Kyle thing, that downtown it's got a feel, it's got a flavor. We should be trying to maintain that flavor, it's mentioned in here. So, I'm mentioning that.
Do
And
we
then
have an illustration that
Shalice, are you able to pull
depicts?
that up?
yeah,
The
because
renderings
mine
of the
is
Turkey Street
black and
building?
white and looks really terrible.
I don't know.
Just to give us,
Way in the back somewhere. There's 2 shots way in the back. And are your things in color or are your things all black and
They
white?
are in
They
color.
are.
Yeah.
Oh, here we
very
go.
nicely filmed.
This one? Yep.
Okay, do you see, the other, see it's toward the back right there, that white stuff, but flip to the next picture, which gives you a better shot of it. To me, that doesn't look like anything downtown at all. I don't know. I mean, the rest of the building really doesn't with the,
I think it's a good mix of modern and historical compliments to downtown. That's my opinion,
Yeah.
honestly.
yeah, no,
I've heard other people say they like it.
yeah,
You know, that's why, you know, everybody's got their own opinion
Sure.
as it relates to it.
yeah.
Yeah, I like the fact that they took away the transformers and the
Yeah, right.
rendition.
Yeah, yeah,
That looks
yeah.
really good compared to,
There's one hiding behind that tree, I think.
Yeah.
But in general, when that comes in front of us for approval, and again, I know that you always have to go back to the drawing board, and it costs more money to go back and redraw plans and figure out what the outside's gonna look like and whatever. So that's what I'm saying, let's mention it now. And again, this is just me. So,
Are there any other images, Shalice? I think there was one
Just-
from Turkey with the farmer's market. Maybe not.
I could point you to a page.
I cannot.
yeah, it's tough. Those are the 2 that I saw in there.
and that could be an illustration
There was one
that
that had the
really
farmer's
doesn't
market as
depict the
well.
material the way it could.
Market down at the house.
Yeah, no, the old farmer's market building, the existing building.
If the architect were able to tell us, these are the elements that I saw downtown, that I tried to integrate into this building. And so you can see that I snagged the windows from over here, from this building, and I plugged them in here, and the roof line matches these other roof lines.
I feel better about it, but
Well, this is what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Is there we asked that question when they were here last, and I don't remember if she was the architect or the planner
Deb.
who was
Yeah.
presenting,
Time.
right? Did outline some of that, which I agree with you about the look of the building. Although hearing her outline what elements of the building they did try to match from downtown, I then found myself begrudgingly like, okay, I see that, I get it, and I still don't love it, but I am wondering if that would help, or if our statement is, you know, a 5-story building in the center of our downtown that doesn't have any other 5-story buildings on this parking lot is a significant cultural and aesthetic change, and we feel like the current architectural design doesn't match closely enough.
okay. Maybe it doesn't even match. It just
Wait, yeah, I mean,
coordinate. You know, I'm not sure what the word is, but it needs to be more similar.
It seems
I-
like, one of the, when they were here, when the Prime people did the presentation, and I didn't see it in the rendering up there, they also had as part of the facade, which I really liked, a flagstone. Sort of like what they're doing at the Commons, on the north-facing side at the Commons, if you've driven by that and seen that, and it's which is consistent with the area. I mean, we have plenty of stone houses, plenty of, lots of granite and flagstone. And it seemed like there was a part, maybe it was from the different angle, maybe it was,
Don't know, but I mean, it's an easy enough
But-
question to ask.
and again, that's just something they put up there over.
would we frame this? I mean, I have a similar issue related to community character and aesthetic impact, in that, you know, the building is oriented with its back to the river, and the only river view then from the building is from the private apartments, private condos, when, you know, we should be reorienting our community to the river and seeing it as an asset instead of something that we turn our backs to. So would we frame our kind of architectural comments in a bigger picture about incorporation of the river? I mean, it says here there's no adverse impact to land use, community character, and say we do see an aesthetic and cultural impact, and it's in the architecture and the building orientation, and let them solve it.
One of the things that, and I realize this is, we're way past it, but it occurred to me when I was downtown one day last month, just sort of looking at it, and I run over and told Melena, I always forget, is it Melena or Melena? Melena, thank you. What if the residential structure, the structure itself, was pushed south, and the parking lot and the public area with the river, what if they were flipped? And so now, when you're standing here at this intersection and you're looking and you're going down Broad, you see granted, you're still gonna be looking at a smaller parking area, but then there's going to be a big green space that now is going to be visible to everyone from downtown, and you're looking at the river.
I don't think physically it could have fit on the other side of the Arts Park connection, the way the law is oriented.
You know, I guess my assessment here is,
Then
you know,
everyone would
on
see the
page
river.
9, in their table 3, summary of potential impacts, you know, I mean, the statement is there, which I think is a complete misunderstanding of our community and its character. On that first one, land use and community character, mitigation measures, no significant adverse impact to land use or community character. I mean, we're putting in an enormous building where right now you look to parking lot, also not a great piece of the viewscape to the river, but to what is one of our only river viewscapes in the downtown core. McDonough Park being the other one. So regardless of, I mean, one thing that I want out of this document is it at least to be accurate. And I would say that that statement is just inaccurate. Regardless of whether you believe that the structure should be there or not, I think to say that there's no impact is, I think is ignoring a fairly obvious big impact.
I don't think the illustration gives us adequate information to make a determination about the aesthetics of the structure. I mean, we're looking at a few hundred, maybe yards down the road, and all we see is a blob of whatever color that is.
Yeah.
You know, so we,
As opposed to a shot from
we
when
don't
you're standing
have-
on the sidewalk, looking
well,
up at
we don't have a depiction of
looking
materials.
up like this. Yeah.
So we
yeah.
don't know what that construction material is, or if it's compatible.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can just say we disagree with the finding that there's no significant adverse impact.
Yeah.
Because
As illustrated.
it's just has not enough information to even
Yeah.
make that decision.
Would we also say that part of that adverse impact is that from a downtown point of view, truly downtown, the river has now become out of sight? I mean, unless you're on the bridge, or if you've gone down to unless you've gone unless you've gone south to the parking lot there and headed east.
Or you're on there, remember, there's a public
Yeah, there's a
right
public-
away next to the river. I don't know how many feet, 15 feet wide, 10 feet wide, whatever, that's the river
Yeah, I
walk, green
understand
space
that.
or
But
whatever, there
again,
is
it's-
that.
That's down at,
You have to go down there.
that's at the bottom of the town,
Right.
we can't see it from downtown.
Right.
It's completely hidden from view.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean, we don't have
by
people hanging
vegetation
out on
today.
Broad Street.
It is.
Right.
hidden
That's
by
not where our
vegetation.
restaurants
Yeah.
are,
No.
that's not where our retail is.
no,
Yeah, you can't see it.
unless you're going to the auctions.
Right.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
God knows that's popular.
Yeah.
Page 86, Shalice, Could you go to that? That references the potential impacts on land use and community character for the Durkee lot mixed-use development.
Yeah, see, I'm reading it. Building colors will be chosen to be consistent with the characteristics of the surrounding neighborhood to the greatest extent possible. The buildings are proposed to feature a mix of materials including stone, cement board, and plank. Frieze and cornice detailing with contrasting metal detailing to mark the fenestration and other fine details. And that's how cement board? I don't find cement board something that's used frequently downtown. I don't see brick mentioned, even brick facing. I don't care if it's 1/4-inch fake brick stuff that looks like brick, as long as it's not brick wallpaper. You've had that problem before. Okay, anyway, I'm finding they're mentioning these materials, but that's not consistent. It's right there, it's not consistent.
Yeah. I think to sum it up, it would be really nice to identify the proposed material with existing material locations.
Right.
So that we can kind of grasp, what it is they're trying to illustrate. The other thing is, I think bringing in some finished material samples it could be by picture, but anything that will show us what the materials are, excuse me, that are gonna be used in the project.
I agree with what you said, Rick, that we don't have enough information to understand the impact on community character. And there are ways to assess that. There are ways to know it, but we don't have that in, we have parking studies, we have traffic studies, they did most of their homework on those things, but we don't have enough information to make.
So we can say
guesses.
the information included in the document is inadequate.
Yeah?
Yeah.
To even make an assessment. So do we agree that would be, as a group, that's one of our findings? That though, even though I'm saying I don't like the building this way, the general feeling is there's just not even enough here
Yeah.
Right.
to say that there's no significant
And back to the
adverse impacts.
appearance, we might want to suggest that they present alternatives
Yeah.
for the facade.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And then, of course, back to, we're on the Durkee parking lot project. The next big thing, of course, as we know, is parking, which I didn't have any personal problem with, okay? Does anybody here want to discuss the parking as it finally is configured? Of course, dependent
Yeah.
upon changes on Durkee Street, of course, but.
We had a lengthy conversation about a structure that had no identifiable use, no proposed use. I don't know if anybody remembers that. On the
Is it
location.
civic building that they
Yeah.
created?
Yeah,
and now it's
the-
different in here.
Yeah,
is it? I didn't catch it.
It's when they presented a few weeks ago, the farmers market space was identified with no use, with no defined use, but would remain in private ownership by Prime, I guess.
yeah.
When they were in here talking.
When they were in here
Yeah,
talking,
I
and
remember.
now in the impact statement, they call it potential commercial space, and it adds a strange little public pavilion off the side.
Yeah, civic space, the open pavilion that's there now would just be civic space. And the intent for the commercial space is unknown at this time, but
Yeah.
they used the parking calculations for a restaurant, which is the most restrictive. So they made sure they looked at the most restrictive for the impacts.
So
on the
my
site.
interpretation of what happened is that we stated, and I have no information here, but my interpretation is that we said, goodness, people are going to think about this as public space because it is now, and you've got it labeled as it's green here. And then if at some point you go and decide to make this commercial space, people will be angry. So I think they then said, ooh, that sounds
Right.
bad. We should define it as commercial space now.
And I think it had to be identified for the purposes of this study
Okay.
as well.
Yeah. So I think that maybe ignited
Yeah.
the change there, but it is a change, and now it is designated as commercial space with a little public pavilion.
Good.
Okay, so do we feel that all the new parking spaces in other places have made up for what they're removing and replacing? In other words, the big public to-do Do we have a problem with this as it's presented? Are we good with it? Do we find they have
Is this a
mitigated
numeric,
it?
is this a numeric question?
Sort
Do the
of.
numbers play out?
I'm not gonna
Can
do
you
the
give us a
numbers.
summary of-
I'm not gonna give you a summary, and I
Not
actually didn't
numbers
really
play
see a
out.
table that,
Yeah.
that looked at the thing that people seem to look at, maybe she
Mass-
has,
There's a
Yeah.
parking table in here, I don't know what page.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, not just for this
No,
site, because,
comprehend the
because
whole
it's the
downtown.
whole picture.
Yes.
And I know that they did say, we feel that by creating the new parking spaces that we have, like the ones that are at the county building, and the ones
Page
that are gonna be at
162, Shalice.
the non-Witherell, which I think it should have been called Witherell parking area, et cetera, that the parking is more thoroughly spread throughout downtown, so that you don't have to park in the city parking lot and then hike yourself all the way to some building at the far end. That in theory, you should have some parking closer to where you wanna eat, whether it's at Arnie's or shop, if it's the former
Well-
Penny's Antiques building, or something at the other end of downtown, I'm not sure what, the chiropractor, okay, who has his own parking anyway. But I think that's what they're saying here, is yes, we've provided enough parking, and it's more thoroughly spread out over downtown.
Yeah, I mean, when they presented too, they said that there's a net increase in the number of parking.
6, I think that was the number I
Okay,
read.
well, you know.
Six, yeah.
Yep,
Let me make one other comment about the central business district, which is the area that we're talking about. Every business from Broad to Oak to Cornelia to the river are all contributors to that district.
and apparently
With-
some on the other side of the river, I read.
That may have changed, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, they
But
sucked some other people into that tax.
we always,
payment.
we
Yeah.
always use that as the rough
Yeah,
guideline.
rough
of
guideline.
People that contributed to the district.
Mhm.
With a singular central parking area, the people at the further ends are disadvantaged. And I think.
Because their
that
taxes aren't
they're-
any less.
They're
Right.
not,
Right.
and their contribution is the same.
Yeah,
So I think that by spreading it out, it creates some equality within the district regulations.
Would you like that to be a comment? Spreading out parking creates
I
equality?
I personally would like that to be a comment, because I
I
think it
agree with
makes
that.
sense.
It's a good point.
that there needed to be parking more close to each usage that you've got going on downtown.
To each area, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we aren't all negative comments,
Yeah, that's good.
okay? So anything else in all these issues or potential mitigated issues?
So let's see.
In this particular, the Turkey Street parking lot.
So, well, I would turn your attention to page 194,
Okay,
Something like
because there's a visual resource section, and it does give a little more detail on the building.
okay. Okay,
Um,
I got a big disagree.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? So under
My comment's already
potential
written.
impact, and I think this gets to our point that we're saying there's not enough information, and they're saying the downtown area improvement project will enhance the visual resource of the area. I mean, these are opinion statements
Yeah.
in this section because there's not evidence to
Yeah.
support them.
Punched
Well,
balcony
they're
openings.
generalizations.
They're generalizations, but not backed up by evidence, and there are ways to get
Yeah.
at whether or not people feel that there's a cultural or aesthetic impact.
Yep.
And they haven't done, you could do a public opinion survey, you could interview 20 people in town, there are things that you can do. You can do it through, GIS or something, and it's a little more indirect. But I mean, there are methods here, and they've provided good evidence in other pieces of the plan, but this is weak.
So we need more specific terms, more specific definition.
Yeah, because it's not believable at the moment, and when there's significant consternation in the community, they look at that statement as either a fabrication or as subterfuge or
It
As
won't
an
be,
opinion.
it won't be.
or just as an
it
opinion.
won't be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they could support it, but they haven't.
Okay.
I
One of
did
the-
read this.
Yeah, one of the lines there too, where it says won't obstruct views of the Saranac River. One of the views that they showed us when Prime was here presenting was that where the river is, there's going to be, there's going to be a wall. The open area, that was the impression I got, and they seem to describe it that way. For anyone who's here, remember, there's, when you're looking from the river,
It's a retaining wall,
yes, there's a retaining wall, and then
sidewalk.
there's a sidewalk down below,
Yeah.
Is
and
that
that's where the,
Riverwalk portion?
Yeah,
yeah, and that's down below. So everything is going to be up, but there's going to be no, I mean, we just have to accept that the way it's designed right now, you're not gonna be looking at the river. You're gonna be, I mean, it's going to be, there's gonna be a retaining wall, and then their parking and their recreational area up above going into the units. You're not
Where
gonna
is
see-
this? Do we have any imagery of this?
That, they brought it to us when they
Of the
did.
backside of the building along the river?
Yeah,
I don't
that
see
was
it on
not in
here.
this, but that
Okay.
was part of the presentation that Prime did.
I don't recall.
When they showed the-
I
and
It's
remember
just
it.
the site plan, I don't think they had an actual rendering of the backside
Well, they
of it.
did, because I looked at it and I thought,
They had a rendering of
I thought it was.
this right here, but that was it, and then they
No,
had the
no,
site
it was,
plan.
it wasn't, it was a rough sketch, but it showed a retaining wall. And because someone asked the question, what's the retaining wall gonna be composed of? And they said they were gonna make it so that maybe.
It's like a living wall.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
I
were gonna
remember
try
that.
to make,
Oh,
that's right.
is
they
this
were
the
good-
side of the garage? The
Yes,
one
that
level
faces
of the
the river.
garage that is,
Yes.
That faces
that
the
is
river,
visible.
and so, but,
Yeah.
so when you're down at the river, you're actually gonna see a wall.
Yeah.
And then the usable area for the people who live
Yeah.
in the development will be above that.
Yep.
But that means that it is all going to be, so the river itself is going to be low.
Mm.
And it's not gonna be sloping down there will be a wall. And then, I don't know, I thought, well, I guess that means
Because
that,
the river's on the,
yeah, it
Right.
slopes down
So if you're standing on
anyway.
the sidewalk, you would still see the river.
Yes, that's the only place you'll see the river from, if you're down
right.
on the
I-
sidewalk.
Okay, yeah.
but that's
I agree.
because of the elevation.
Yeah.
Exactly, but I'm just saying that because we just have to accept, for them to say that it's not obstructing a view of the river is not accurate. That's my only point.
Right,
That's not accurate.
right.
It's just, yes, it is obstructed. You're not gonna see it anymore unless you're up in one of the units.
No, when you're standing on
No,
the
the
sidewalk.
river
you
Yes,
can't
you
see
have
it.
to be on the sidewalk.
Yep, but right now you can't see the
Well,
river.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. But I'm just
Less
saying
so
to
than it is
say
today.
that it doesn't,
I think they mean in the fact that there's still access to the river because of the river walk. So it's not obstructing your access or view because you can still access and view it.
to me, that was,
I get what you're saying.
yeah, I know, I got prickly.
Yeah. So are we good? Are we finished with all comments regarding this particular, the Durkee Street parking lot?
I would make one more, and that is, well, maybe I'd make more than one, but.
Go ahead, go ahead.
On page, 201, it's the irreversible and irretrievable commitment of resources,
What a paragraph.
which is, you know, as planners, we, sometimes see reversible and retrievable. But I guess my problem with the statement here is that it outlines several irreversible and irretrievable commitments, but it does not see the land itself as a resource. There's no mention of we are taking significant pieces of land and converting them to permanent uses through, building of condos or whatever, right? And part of the purpose of this document is that we go in with our eyes wide open. And so I think a statement that says, there's a significant piece of land in the center of downtown that any future use is now impossible unless we're tearing down a 5-story structure.
I think that's the point though, it's retrievable because you can tear it down.
Well, but they say the construction materials are committed. So, I think it needs a statement that says, right, it reads, construction-related materials, including concrete, wood, steel, and fill materials, and construction equipment, will be irreversibly and irretrievably committed to the projects.
Right.
So, I mean, we're gonna have a structure here for the foreseeable indefinite future. That's an irretrievable commitment of a resource that's pretty significant to our community, and I think that it should say there, you know, we are committing a big chunk of, we're committing, what is it, 4 acres or whatever, to,
And I think the last statement kind of sums it up. They're saying, yes, it's an impact, but the anticipated result is a beneficial impact. Maybe that's how they're justifying the irretrievable, irreversible.
I don't know, I think the document as a whole underestimates the value of, the natural value of our downtown kind of.
It's the last
you know.
piece of property in the core of our city, and once we commit to this project, it's not easy to turn back. I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's well said.
So how would you like me to phrase that as a comment?
It's an irreversible and irretrievable commitment of land.
Within the core of the city, the last available land within the core of the city.
Of this size, yeah.
You know, I'm not convinced that that statement is accurate, because, you know, having some degree of construction background, demolition is always a possibility. And the thing that you're not gonna be destroying with this new structure, if it should have to be torn down, is anything that has historic character. You know, that's the one thing that they're not gonna be displacing, because new structures are not gonna have the character that we're aspiring to replicate. And in dealing with, you know, historic preservation and the state historians want you to utilize the existing materials that are on historic buildings. So I don't think that that statement is totally accurate. And I'm not pretending to be an authority on demolition, but if you build it, they can destroy it.
Well, then I guess they should remove
They
the
should
statement
remove the statement.
that says construction materials are irreversibly
Yeah,
committed.
That statement.
because you can,
Yeah.
you can demolish it once it's built. I'm not sure that that's
At a
accurate.
significant cost.
Yeah.
So
My-
we disagree with this paragraph 6.0.
Yeah.
That would be our statement.
Why did they put it in there? That's my question.
It's not a requirement of an impact statement, I don't think.
Is it?
That I don't know, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, it just seems like an odd,
Yeah,
because of course it can be removed, anything can be removed.
Yeah.
You know, hell, they removed the World Trade, you know,
yeah.
yeah.
And I don't really read this as it can't be demoed. I read it as once those construction materials are used, they can't be reused, right? So they're being committed already to the project. They're demoed, are you really gonna repurpose those materials?
I
It's just kind of
understand.
Steel
outlining,
and stuff
Yeah.
gets
it's outlining what
recycled.
resources are
Yeah.
being used. I think they're just kind of calling that out. These are the resources that are gonna be used for construction. We probably can't reuse them again, so that's an impact on the environment.
I agree with your statement, but I'm not in agreement that that's what this says.
I don't know, is our
Yeah.
group agreement is that we,
Maybe further clarification?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just clarify, yeah,
Sure.
what
That would-
what
are they trying to
exactly
say?
are they trying to say here?
Right.
Because many of us have different interpretations of that same
Okay.
paragraph.
Yeah, that would be fair.
Okay.
And I have an offside comment, really, just about building this building down here. I don't think anybody else has this comment, that I really don't think they're gonna be able to get these people to move down here and live downtown. I think that's a underlying huge problem. Don't think it's actually gonna happen. They'll have to lower the rents, and then they'll want their taxes lowered. Just can't picture it. So,
Well, I think they are.
and again, so you disagree.
Yeah, I do,
But-
well, that's just because, you know, my kids are,
They've done market studies.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
they would
mean,
not
I've
put the money
already
in if they
got,
didn't.
you know, my son Gus is just waiting for it to be built, cause
Yeah.
he's ready to put down money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it seems like there are a fair number of young people moving back to the area who don't necessarily, they're not looking to buy a house and travel to their job. They want to be part of downtown.
I have a question regarding the city and Prime's agreement.
You know, works for me.
The city
Good
of
idea.
Plattsburgh
Don't.
experienced the RV vision of that parking lot many years ago, and it kind of went dormant. Is the city, within the agreements, obligated to stick with Prime if they should relinquish their interest in the land, or?
The city put out an RFP, I believe, for interested parties to develop that parcel. Prime was the only applicant.
Yeah.
And then that's where the agreement came into place. As far as if Prime doesn't deliver, I don't know what the next
Yeah,
steps would be.
I mean, $5 million into the project, if they said, look, this is impossible, we can't do it, they walk away.
I'm sure our lawyers have looked into that. I'm
Well,
not
we
that
thought they
lawyer.
did, we thought they did when the last proposed project took place. And it became
What was that?
dormant.
The
when-
Arve thing, where they
when
had,
bought the air rights
Yeah.
over the land.
was a problem.
Yeah.
Big problem.
And it stopped all development of the site for the longest time. So,
I'm sorry, I have a minor emergency that I need to take care of.
Okay.
Our 12-year-old son is at home and needs some help.
well,
I'm
Okay.
super sorry
Good luck.
because I was one of the instigators of this
We
meeting.
still have- we still have-
It's a little
Leave us
embarrassing.
with, Derek?
Do you think
Um,
you've made most of your points?
I think that I have made most of my points, and my points about the other sites are much more minor than the,
Okay.
Then the major site.
Yeah.
Okay.
than the major. And so is the plan that these will be incorporated into a letter?
Yeah, I think tonight what we'll do is we'll adopt all of these statements that you have made tonight, and then Shalice and I will draft a letter, and we'll get your final
Okay.
approval, and then we'll submit that to the council.
I'm so sorry.
it's a good idea.
Thank you, Kurt.
Well, thank you for-
Final approval might require a meeting for them to give that approval.
Can't hear you.
So could they just give staff the ability to formulate the letter and submit it to council without?
Yeah, I'd
Formal
say
approval?
maybe read back the comments to them and.
Okay,
if
yep,
they-
we'll do that.
or
We'll read back the
give
comments.
authorization to do that. Yeah.
Or if you even addressed it to Marissa, you know,
Yeah.
as
I think you're
as
just
our
gonna send it
chair.
out to all of us and say, these are the
Yeah.
words you said, right?
Can I do that?
Yeah, why
I'm
not?
sorry, what was it?
Can I email the letter around and have everybody confirm that this is correct?
No, is that a
No,
quorum?
There's actually a violation of.
Yeah, we can't do that.
To have a chain email going on, it's like a conversation that's happening outside.
Right.
What if it's independently, separately emailed as opposed to group emailed?
It's still, yes,
Oh.
DOS clarified this for me twice.
Okay. Comment?
Yeah, as
From
far
the-
as how to submit, the board could simply in their resolution state that the city planner is based on these notes to put together a number of comments to put out. She could send it out to all of you, and if any of you have anything further to add, you could submit comments on your own. Because any
Independently,
individual can submit
Okay.
comments
Okay.
to GEIS,
Okay.
not just
That
as a board.
works.
So
Okay,
if I miss something, you can
Different-
submit separately.
different hat, okay.
Yep.
That
yeah,
works.
no group, like responses, but you can individually respond to Melena, she can verify it, resend it out.
Okay,
Okay, good.
we
Maybe
trust you,
also
you're gonna write our
authorize
exact
the
words down
council to do
anyway.
Oh, exact.
Okay, so I think we have ended discussion on the city parking lot part of the
Okay.
project.
So our next project
Would be, we're,
is the Saranac Riverwalk.
page,
Page 3 is the description of the project.
okay,
So the Riverwalk will be located on the tax parcel 207.20-7-15, top of the western bank of the Saranac River between Bridge Street and Broad Streets. The Riverwalk will also occupy a portion of the former footprint of tax parcel 207.20-7-14. It'll be a walkway with an overlook and landscape plantings that will accommodate pedestrians. It will provide connectivity to the McDonough Park to the north via a crosswalk over Bridge Street into the Saranac River Trail. To the south via a path to be constructed between the Gateway Complex and Broad Street that will connect to the existing sidewalk at the intersection of Broad and Durkee Streets. So, any comments in regards to the summary of potential significant adverse environmental impacts and mitigation measures
which
on
starts
page
on
9?
9.
I had one question, but I don't know if it was appropriate to this, and that's probably why I had a question about it. Are they going to be, building steps that, basically mirror what is on the north side of Bridge Street? You know, you take those steps going down
I'm
to.
not seeing
I don't think it's necessary, I think
Are
the
you
grade
seeing
is okay, that it just comes out to
the
where the
section we
sidewalk
need to
is.
look at. I'm not seeing it.
Yep, I believe so,
I may have.
because the grade is this going down Bridge Street.
There's also a question of handicap accessibility to
Yeah, well, yeah,
respond.
yeah.
So
You'd
they
have to
couldn't
have,
put
you'd have to have a
steps.
slope, but
This is
I was wondering if
state-funded
they were gonna
project.
be,
It'll
just
be
so that when you were
plan.
on Bridge Street, it
Yeah.
would be
Yeah,
going either way, but I didn't know how.
Standards of compliance with ADA are a lot different today than when
Yeah.
that other
When those
was
steps were built?
yeah.
Because the nice thing about steps is it makes it a lot easier to use it in bad weather.
Tell me
If you're going down a
exactly
slope
where
in
on
bad
this
weather, you're
table
not gonna go.
we are
Yeah,
looking
to
at
be
the
your
handicap
sled
river.
out.
accessible, you
addressed.
have to
so
have
this is an
landing
overview
areas.
table, you have to go to like the each
intermittently
individual,
throughout
so
the
each
ramp,
of these
so-
sections,
Right.
like, so
Yeah.
3.1, 3.2, all
Right.
have a
Slows
section
down that
here, and each of those
continuous.
sections address each project. So that's the way that's broken
Okay.
down.
So-
You have to literally go
So there
to
won't be
3.1 in here
I was
and then
hoping there
find
would
the
be,
And
but
that
I
should
beginning of the
achieve
Saranac River
handicap
Walk.
accessibility.
So.
Well, you could have
They're-
both.
they're gonna
Which
have
is
to.
a full frontage for
Well, I
it.
It could
understand
be a
that.
combination.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we've got that at McDonough Park, we've got that,
yes,
Page 90, I
Elsewhere.
believe.
yeah.
90?
but I
For
didn't
land
see
use
anything about that, so I was
community.
just wondering how that was
I
going to be
didn't see
achieved.
the illustration on that.
Yeah. So page 90 is the Saranac River Walk in regards to land use, community character, zoning, and public policy.
You have 90.
And then we have to find section 3.2 and then find Saranac River
It's
Walk
90.
in that one.
Three of us don't have to document.
Okay, so there's this.
Yep.
And then tell me where else I gotta go.
So
Just-
then aquatic resources, section 3.2, so we'd go to section 3.2 and then find mention of the Saranac River Walk, which is page 110, and we'd find the Saranac River Walk. Page 110.
That's everything she just read, that's a replication of page 9.
Hmm.
Did anybody have any comments in regards to the river walk?
I don't think so, but it's very hard to,
Yeah.
it's buried. I mean,
I-
the findings at the front in 9 through 15 are so condensed.
I think it was just meant to be a summary at the front.
So we need to, and I know you wanna get out of here by 5:30, but
No,
I'm
it's fine.
not seeing where,
Is the Riverwalk the responsibility of the city or Prime?
It's actually the responsibility of the city, in combination with Saratoga Associates. They're a consultant,
Okay.
they're designing it.
Okay,
Yep, but it's a city-sponsored project.
it is
Yep.
city, okay. So Prime has nothing to do
They
with
have nothing to do
that
with it.
anyway.
Who's
Still-
building the wall, the living wall?
That would be Prime, that's on their property.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
So they're trying to incorporate their design with the Riverwalk. Of
Right.
course, they're working with Saratoga
Right.
Associates to make it one big, good project.
cause I'm in like 122 and I think they're still talking really, it's nothing to do with Riverwalk, I think it's it's all still the Durkee Street parking lot, forever and ever and ever. Okay.
So 3.2 is all about aquatic and natural resources, and there's mention of the Riverwalk in there.
Yeah.
And then 3.3.
Not good organizational way to look at something. Again, we're not really sure about the wall. The wall is sort of part of the project, but not part of the Riverwalk.
And
But
no
what's the
paints
Riverwalk?
what, and, yeah, again, a rendering,
Did you have renderings of the Riverwalk?
And again, I'm not sure how, do we know how they are going to, the inaccessible staircase that's on the south side that leads to a metal traffic bumper, so that you have to climb over it and then fall down the stairs
Yeah, I
at the
believe
moment.
that will be abandoned, and then the route will go along the north side of the Gateway building and then connect to the Broad Street, Durkee Street intersection with a
Okay.
crosswalk to the proposed Saranac River Trail Greenway Phase 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
cause that crazy stairs
It-
is just, I don't
I
know.
don't know how that happened.
Yeah. Okay, as long as they are going to abandon that, and
Yes.
whatever.
Do you have the illustrations of the river?
Is there a
Yeah,
Riverwalk,
I'm-
really?
I didn't
If there's
see
an
that, I
illustration of the
missed it.
Riverwalk in here.
Okay, I went through and I didn't see it.
We can ask that they add the rendering of the Riverwalk in here.
Yeah. Because again, kind of hard to make any decisions on whether they've addressed everything if we don't really see.
Yeah, the one area that concerned me, and it's still in the developmental stage, is the erosion plan. You know,
Yep.
as you work on a riverbank,
Yep.
if you
Exactly.
eliminated the trees there in the root system, you
You-
tend to
Right.
compromise the erosion, so
And what's gonna
I'd be
happen during
curious.
flooding, you know, what's gonna happen in
Yeah.
springtime or
Ice-
in a, yeah, with
ice
ice,
chunks,
ice
yeah.
flows coming down.
Yep.
So with the site plan review, we will require a stormwater management plan and also an erosion sediment control plan,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
It'll all
and
be
they
part
did
of the site plan
identify
review.
that it's still in the design stage, so
Right.
I'm
Okay,
I'm
so
This is more
satisfied.
big picture.
Yeah,
This-
got it.
Okay, so that's the end of comments regarding the Riverwalk section. What is the next
The
section?
next one is the Durkee Street reconfiguration and streetscape improvements, which we already spoke
We
about, I
spoke
believe.
about,
The
right.
two-way traffic, one-way traffic.
Right.
Would you guys like to skip over that one then? and
Yeah,
just
it's
talk
really been addressed
So then
indirectly.
Westell Park improvements, this is the proposed arts park.
Page,
We're on page 4 right now, I'm just
Okay,
gonna read the
yeah,
description
it's
real
all right.
quick. So this is the park that's located across the street from the Durkee Street parking lot. The redesign will result in a multi-tiered park that will include sculpture areas, a water feature, a plaza, bicycle infrastructure, and pedestrian walking areas and landscaping throughout. And also the relocation of a 15-inch sewer line, which I believe is something crazy, like over 100 years old or something. So they'll have to be relocated, and that's part of that project.
made of wood,
And what?
made of wood.
Fortunately, it dissects the parking lot, so.
They didn't ever make them a wood, did they?
We have pump log, the museum has pump logs of water lines that were actually wood, where
Oak.
they fit together like this at the end, and they were water lines.
It taken off Brinkerhoff Street. I remember that.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah,
How old were they?
old.
Yeah, that. Wow.
I think the timing of the name of that improvement, I worked under a mayor, Dan Stewart,
Mhm.
who had the vision to remove the DeRocher building. He created a stage, he created the first outdoor, and I don't know that this is an appropriate time to do this, but I think it would be a great gesture in this downtown park to kind of remember the efforts of people in the past. And if not the whole park, then a portion of the park be, you know,
I agree.
dedicated to people that had that vision like Dan.
Yep.
And he went all out for it, and I
Yes, he did, and he got it.
commend him, because now we're just building on it, and
Yep.
he got it started.
But he did start it.
So the
I agree.
planning board will have review over the PUD subdivision of the Durkee Street lot and the PUD site plan of Durkee Street lot. All of the other projects that are listed in this document, the planning board will play an advisory role, so you will see them, but you won't vote on anything. So that's a great comment to make when you are reviewing that project.
Got it. Thanks, Vic, that's a great idea.
I think it's appropriate.
I've stayed in touch with Dan.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's good. It's
Actually has a rendering up on
hit
it.
great energy.
Yeah, no, he was a good friend, or he is a friend.
Yeah.
So any significant impacts identified with this project?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, look, two-way traffic. on-
I do, I guess I
One
do
way.
have one.
Yeah, shoot, yeah.
We were just talking about the Riverwalk, and now that I'm looking at the ramp, it says X ramp. What is the handicap accessibility to the water feature park? Looks like a lot of steps and
Well, I believe you'd be able to go down around the ramp and then back up to the water feature.
the
Is
X
that
ramp.
That ramp
The
is
X
real
ramp. I think they would just remove
existing
the
ramp.
railings.
Yeah. Isn't it too steep to be handicapped, correct?
I'm not sure what the grade is of that ramp.
It's steep, it's
pretty
really steep, yeah.
They would need to do a whole
It's
lot
88
more
in line.
zigzags to make that work. Yeah.
That would probably be a
And,
question.
and the other thing, of course, is if you've ever walked through here, and I don't know if it's JCEO or whatever, but we'll
Yeah.
call it the upper section here, the north section. There's garbage there, there's
Yeah, it's
all
pretty
sorts of
gross.
stuff, they have a locked metal cage, it looks really
Yep.
terrible.
It's really nasty.
Is that still all
That's
gonna
the
be
bagel
there?
pit.
I'm sure there'll be some improvements in screening, but these are all good comments for when you're an advisory board to let Saratoga Associates know these are some issues that need to be addressed when you're
Yeah.
designing final design.
Okay, I don't think we have any other comments for that.
Okay. The next project is the Bridge Street parking improvements. So this is streetscape improvements in approximately 6 new parallel public on-street parking spaces along the south side of Bridge Street between Durkee Street and the Veterans Bridge.
Okay, do we have a picture?
Don't know if we have a picture of the streetscapes in here. We do have a picture of the rendering of the mixed-use development that shows that portion of the street.
I have a 5:15 meeting, that I have to leave for.
Well, we still have
I was-
three, as long as we still have 3 bodies, I think we're okay. Is there anything else when you looked at the document for any other project you need to talk about right
No,
now?
honestly, my big thing was the traffic on Durkee Street, and again, and I know it can't happen.
Yeah.
But if the building, and
Yeah.
I want, yeah, the traffic
Yeah.
was my big
Okay.
issue. And I don't see a way for one-way traffic on Durkee to work
Yeah,
without really clogging things up and defeating the purpose.
Okay.
okay. I'm looking. Where are we looking? 7? No.
Do you have any comment on the farmer's market? That-
Being
that'd be
moved and
Being
removed
moved,
or whatever?
I like the idea of moving the farm, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that moving stuff down to the boat basin, personally, I think that's a great idea, because I think that that's a gorgeous park down there
Yeah.
that doesn't get a lot of use.
We did apply for some funding through the CFA last year for a master plan for Harborside, and we should hear in the next 2 weeks if we got
I
that
just,
money.
it's such a beautiful area,
Absolutely.
and I think moving the farmer's market down there is gonna really,
Yeah.
really create some energy down there,
Mhm.
and, I love that idea, I love that idea. Because it's just, I mean, I go down there every once in a while to walk my dogs, and, but again, I forget about it. If the farmer's market was down
Page
there,
30, Shelley.
I'd be there every
Page
week.
30?
And it's
Yeah.
totally contained, so
Yeah.
it's year-round,
Yeah.
Yes.
which, again,
Yeah.
I just think is fabulous.
I
So, yes, I very much support that one.
30.
Are we on the farmer's market now?
Yeah, we're
Or
trying to
did we
look at
just
this
jump to it?
really terrible
Oh,
picture.
yeah.
I only-
We're still trying to do the Durkee
John
Street,
Ruff is
no, the
hosting,
something parking improvements, something.
public session to get comments,
Bridge Street parking improvements,
about
which is
the
page
redesign of
29.
the water treatment plant
And I don't
on
think
Harborside.
page 30 is a picture of it.
Held
It
here
doesn't
in
really look like a
council,
picture
so
of it.
if you're able to attend that, that'd be great.
Between Durkee and the Veteran Street Bridge.
Next Thursday at 6:30. That's the 12th, yes.
Just new parking spaces, and I'm thinking it could be, are the new parking spaces being added on Bridge Street, there because you're closing off certain accesses? Do we know the answer
I'm
to
sorry.
that? Are the new parking spaces on Bridge Street that are being created, okay, the Bridge Street extra parking spaces that didn't exist before, are they there because certain entrances and exits are being removed from the parking lot, therefore it's not a opening to the parking lot anymore? Now it can be a parking space? Is that kind of what's happening?
I believe so, yeah.
Bridge Street,
That would
Yeah.
make sense.
I mean, but I can't tell from that drawing, I don't see like 6 new spaces drawn in, or where they're gonna be, or,
I think they do have them hashed, it's just really hard to see, there's like little white lines
can
that are
you
hashed.
zoom?
There you go.
Yeah,
To Bridge Street.
Bridge Street side, zoom, zoom, zoom.
You can barely see, there are some white hashes.
You're kidding, still don't see anything.
I can see them in my black and white one.
I mean, I can see them right here on this.
That's the identification of the property line.
That's not parking
That's
spaces.
the boundary of the prime location.
Here,
It's
I'll make
not
them dark on my page and just pass it to you, because I'll just highlight what's white here. So these are the spots here that were white on my page, I just colored them in dark. It is very
Those are
important.
new spaces here that we don't really see. Do I even have this page?
This bike path right
Oh, mine looks
Yeah.
completely different. Look at mine that's the printed version?
Oh my gosh, you don't even see it.
It's chopped off, it doesn't even show.
Sure, right. This is,
So yes, the answer is,
Okay, I knew it wasn't very many.
Yeah. Hey, I'd be curious to, if I'm looking at this, the city street, which is where the public parking is proposed, some of those spaces go over the property line. Is that not gonna create, an issue later?
I think it goes over the property line, but I'm not sure that it's not within the right-of-way of Bridge Street. You know what I mean? I think Bridge Street is a state
Yeah,
route,
it's
and it
in
has
s-
a pretty big right-of-way.
Yeah, but they don't typically,
And if easements are required, obviously, we can request
Yeah.
that.
okay.
Yeah.
It-
Isn't the side of the building gonna be pretty tight there? as
It's
I
tight.
recall?
It's
How
within
wide?
3
'Cause
feet
they were
of
asking-
the setback.
Yeah.
Within 3 feet of setback, but
Within
not
3
like,
feet of the
well, call it,
property
how
line.
far from the curb would be the building?
This
Three.
is the curb right here. This is the
Yeah.
building.
That,
The white
So
is,
it's 5 feet
the
from,
white
3 feet
is
from
the
the
new
sidewalk.
proposed parking area.
so say the sidewalk's 3 feet wide,
5 feet.
5 feet
5
wide,
feet.
and then we got through, so it's really 8 feet maybe from building to curb?
Yep.
Okay, reasonable, not wonderful, but reasonable.
15 is the requirement here, but that's part of being the PUD. They're gonna
Yeah.
ask for that
Yeah,
deviation.
yeah.
So
Okay,
yes, this
I-
is just.
Yeah, I don't have
additional
any problem
parking
with these
spaces
6 parking spaces being added
Yeah.
and
Okay. And some tree plantings along
Yeah.
Durkee Street.
whatever. I think that's okay. So
Yeah.
our next item,
Arnie Miller, Arnie.
Next item
Arnie
is the Arnie Pavone Memorial Parking Plaza. So this is the former Glens Falls National Bank on Margaret Street. It's proposed to demolish this building, and construct a 109 space municipal public parking lot. This is going to replace some of the parking that will be lost due to the Durkee Street development.
mhm.
In
And of course, and Division
And
Street
Division Street
being
will be abandoned.
abandoned,
Yes.
not a street,
Now,
be
the
a
west
parking lot.
side of Division Street where that space between the 2 parking lots is, do you know what that'll be? Is
Where are
that
we?
landscape,
West
right there where the arrow
side?
It's
is?
sidewalk.
Okay, so a sidewalk, well, that's good thinking.
Yep.
That's good.
So I had a concern with this, no, it's not
Yeah.
probably in these
Yeah.
comments, but my concern was, Community Bank uses Division Street as their only exit out of the site.
And we
we
take
did-
that away from them, they gotta
No,
go
we
drive
didn't-
through a parking lot.
We did not want to disturb that exit,
Yeah.
so we are diverting them through a parking lot.
Yeah,
But they've signed off on it, said they're okay with it.
yeah.
My concern is just traffic flow, but
And actually, at the moment, when you go onto Division Street, all you can do is turn left.
is turn left.
You got no choice,
Correct.
you're on Oak Street.
Yes.
Now-
they can go right.
They can actually turn right and
Yeah.
exit onto Market Street, so it gives people who have parked at Community Bank
Sure.
more options.
Yeah.
My suggestion was just to widen their exit onto Margaret Street to a 2-way instead of being a 1-way in, just make
Yeah.
that in and out. But
I do have a concern about the pedestrian access. We have that sidewalk that appears to terminate at that,
Cut through.
that
Yeah.
cut through. And then where do the pedestrians go from there to access Margaret Street? They,
Sidewalk ends.
sidewalk ends, goes to a crosswalk.
Right.
And
And
then-
onto the
They're
grass.
kind of stuck on the concrete
Yeah.
on Community Bank's property, which then connect to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's our property line, and we
Yeah.
can adjust that.
Yeah.
And we're already going to be building on Community Bank's property and getting an easement for that. And the sidewalk would have to be at least 5 feet. I don't think there's room to do that in between the parking spaces.
So you got a short gap in there.
We do. We would definitely put a crosswalk, obviously across the Community Bank exit, and also a yield or stop sign to control traffic coming out of Community Bank, just to,
Yeah.
slow them down
Yeah.
before they go into the parking lot.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, say, those, again, and you'd have to get something out of Community Bank, say those two parking spaces or 3 parking spaces, right where you have just left the crosswalk area and now you're going nowhere, there's no sidewalk. What if those were made shorter and were for compact cars only? And-
That only gives up, I think,
How
2
much?
feet maybe.
Yeah.
It's not much. It's not wide enough for a
It's not enough.
sidewalk.
Well,
It's a
I
problem.
think it's a
Okay.
question and concern that we just leave it with that as a question
So
and ask them
pedestrian
to address
connectivity
it.
from Oak Street to Margaret
Yeah.
Street.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know that this would be part of the EIS and more of your advisory role for this site plan.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure that's like a significant adverse impact to the environment, not having that.
Well, here's the flip side of that
Maybe a
issue.
minor impact.
Mhm.
If to achieve pedestrian access from Oak to Margaret Street, they had to eliminate 10 parking spaces, now it becomes a significant problem. So rather than eliminating parking spaces to create pedestrian access,
Mhm.
which I can envision that being a point of contention later on,
Sure.
I think it should be addressed.
Okay. So connectivity from Oak to Margaret
Can we
Street.
make that whole, make it bigger so that just that intersection where the crosswalk is gonna be, it shows up a little more? Yeah, okay. So I'm trying to decipher how many feet is at the skinniest point, right there at the head of parking space 11, between, how big is that little space that's not a parking space?
There's a graphic scale at the bottom.
I can see that, but impossible for me to figure
Yeah,
it
I
out.
know. So I believe the yellow sidewalk
Yeah. There.
alongside the handicap spaces is actually 8 feet. I think that's standard for handicap spaces for
Okay.
unloading, so that's a little bit wider than what a 5-foot sidewalk would.
As it goes on back to compact cars, what if the 3 or the 4 community bank spaces plus 11, 10, 9, and 8 all became compact spaces? We'd knock 2 feet off the upper spaces and 2 feet off the lower spaces if community bank were willing to work with
I
it?
don't believe that we're able to do work on private property. think
I mean,
that's
if
the
they were
problem.
willing to,
And I don't think that they wanna pay to do that, so we couldn't use any of the money
well,
that we have to do.
you still got the parking spaces, they're marked compact spaces, which is not unusual. And we have a sidewalk.
So, community bank, that yellow portion that's
Mhm.
on their land,
Yep.
they're gonna do that?
No,
Is it-
it's an easement though, but I don't think
Okay.
that they'd be willing to adjust their parking count for additional
So
sidewalk.
if we requested an easement over the land, would they allow us to do it?
I don't know that we're able to, I don't know, maybe.
We got it for part of it.
We got it for part of the sidewalk.
If the whole
correct.
thing resolved the
But it-
issue,
But it doesn't disturb their current parking.
yeah. And you're right, it doesn't.
Half their parking lot's eating at Arnie's anyway, as you know.
You know what,
and I
that's a
know.
great community service that they've always provided.
Yeah.
We may not wanna disrupt that cart.
Anyway, so that would be a comment. It's
Okay.
not, we all agree, there's some kind of problem here with this sidewalk to nowhere,
Sure.
okay? And I would think either you just don't provide the sidewalk on the left side,
I think that's existing.
okay? And I'm pretty sure it's not 5 feet wide.
No, it's
Okay,
not, it's
yeah,
not standard.
okay. Or you fix the situation. Those are your two
So
choices.
this is Arnie Pavone. So,
That's our one comment on this, and I don't think I'll miss Division
Yeah.
Street, but when I'm trying to get on Couch Street, it's really handy.
I guess the other question that I would have, and this would have to be directed to an engineer, are there requirements for sidewalks to be incorporated within a parking lot?
we do have off-street parking regulations for design, which include like landscaping, sidewalks, et cetera. It's all in our zoning code, and this will have to meet that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we should go on to the Broad Street Municipal Parking Lot.
Okay.
BSML, PL, whatever.
So this will be, it's currently public parking. This is the Broad Street lot. That's currently part of the larger Durkee Street lot that will be subdivided out and become its own parcel. It will have some improvements. I don't know what the count is right now for parking, but it's proposed to be a 59 space parking lot. A minor expansion, restriping. Here it is right here, accommodate 22 additional parking spaces.
One thing I've always kind of questioned over there, it's not real clear to me, the Steve used cars thing that's there. where his parking is for his business or his quote-unquote inventory or whatever as it relates to the rest of the
I believe
parking
it's
lot.
contained on his site, but I'm not sure.
You got a special use permit to operate an automobile agency there.
Hmm.
On his own property though.
Yeah, and he claims ownership of Durkee Street, that's why he uses,
Yeah, Durkee Street is not a private street, that's an extension of Durkee Street, it's a public road.
no, that's
He's
the
just-
legal-
he's
that's
just
the
telling
legal
you
argument that's-
From experience, what the situation is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's unresolved as far as I know. So the scope of the work here would be adding on, parking spaces to the east side of that lot?
Right,
Is
and
that-
restriping some of it,
Yeah. That's good, I don't,
and then that little piece of sidewalk too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it would be unfair for us to, negatively comment about one parking area not having access to public sidewalk and then having another one that completely has no access to a public which makes me think, if that sidewalk weren't present,
Would it be
from
required?
Oak Street, would it then be required?
I'm not sure that's required in our code, but
Yeah, so that may be the simplest solution, just eliminate it, that way it's not taking you from the security of a sidewalk to.
To another.
To the middle of a parking lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we lose green space here,
a
right?
little bit, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think much though, because of the grade here.
Because that's where it starts to drop
There's
off.
some weird little trail down there,
Yeah.
like a bench.
Okay, so I
there's
think,
no plan for the Riverwalk to extend to this area?
There is, we did receive a grant for phase 2 of the Riverwalk. We're in the process of working with the DOT and the Park Service, for a bridge at the end of Durkee Street here.
Nice.
So there'll be some connectivity.
but don't you think having the Riverwalk go over the lands of Stephen Baker is gonna be a problem?
I don't have the plan in front of me, I don't really know.
I mean, I'm just
I don't
thinking
believe
about
so.
how
I think-
exciting it was when they did it along the other riverfront. You know what I'm talking about?
I mean, easements are gonna be a part of the whole river
Yeah.
trails.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They've already been down that road
Yeah.
with people that think they own right to the riverbank.
Right.
Okay. I think we're good
Okay,
with everything on Broad Street
I do
Municipal.
have one other.
Go ahead, sure,
One
go
other
ahead.
question about this. The former Plattsburgh gas and water plant site, which
Mhm.
is where this bridge is gonna take you from Durkee Street across,
Mhm.
they've been doing remediation under the river, and there were some spots on the north side of the river in this general vicinity. Will this development be undeveloped
we're
when
working.
they do the remediation of
We're
this
working
site?
with NICEAG right now to try and coordinate the development of this and the remediation. They are slowly moving down
Awesome.
the river, so we're hoping that our schedules will align.
There's mention of that in the document.
Yes,
too.
there
Yeah,
is.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Good foresight, because
Absolutely.
a lot of times in the past, we would see roads get paved and then,
And then someone
oh,
come in
guess
and.
what?
Dig it up. Yep,
Change the sewer line.
yep, yep.
Let's dig it up.
So then our next item would be Plattsburgh Farmers Crafters Market, which we
Okay.
discussed a little bit, but
Yep, so
We'll
this
just
is the relocation from its current location on the Durkee Street, over to the Harborside area near Green Street and Dock Street. The building proposed for the relocated farmer's market is a metal frame building, currently known as building number 4, that was previously used by the municipal lighting department. It's anticipated that the building will be rehabilitated and additional improvements completed, including an outdoor pavilion, additional parking, and some passive open space.
so the only thing I think it's great that they're gonna relocate. I'm not sure how much actual traffic they're gonna get in the middle of January if they're there. I think it's gonna be kind of quiet. But what I worry about, if the only access to this would be from Green Street, right? They're not gonna create an access that goes through the parking lots
We're
that are.
hoping to eventually as a phase 2. Unfortunately, the funding that we have right now for the relocation will only include these improvements. But that access has been identified and will eventually occur. I think for the first season,
Yeah.
which starts in May, probably Green Street will be the only access, but hopefully next year we'll have two.
Because it just seems like it would be so easy to.
And great for, people coming in off their boats to come to the farmer's market on
Right,
Saturday.
right.
People visiting the waterfront.
Because
So
Green
we do hope
Street's
to
pretty
connect that.
creepy, okay?
There is pedestrian access through
There is
there.
pedestrian
Yeah.
access, and we
Yeah.
will remove the whole perimeter fence around that to
Yeah.
open up the sidewalk.
Yeah.
and,
But that would be my
Nice.
biggest concern, that Green Street is
Access.
just
Yep.
strange, okay?
It's a strange intersection
And then
too.
up and over the railroad tracks
Yep.
and, yeah, and then the back view of what used to be Plattsburgh Motor Service, not so good.
Right.
Yeah,
We hope to do a mural there. That's our goal. It'd be great.
Yeah.
I will comment too, Ethan had reminded me, Thursday at 6:30, next Thursday, the 12th, John Ruff is holding a public comment meeting in regards to some architectural upgrades to the water treatment facility down
Mhm.
at this location. So if anyone would like to attend that and have some comments.
Next Thursday.
Yep, next
Mhm.
Thursday at 6:30 here.
okay, we'll wait for Rick to come back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, since Rick stepped out, do you guys
Yeah.
want to take a 5-minute recess?
Take 5-minute recess to wait for our quorum to come back, okay?
Overall, what did you guys think about this document as a whole?
I'm not crazy about the jump back and forth to try
format.
to follow what you're looking at.
I think it
Okay.
almost should have been broken down by project, and then they went through the
Right,
mitigation
and then the
measures for each project
sub-
versus doing mitigation measures then each project.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, too hard to follow for the average person, and if you're somebody, Rick was saying he's trying to read it on his phone. It's like,
Oh.
no. But again, this may be the way they do all of them, this firm, Chazen,
Mhm.
whatever, this is their format, this is how they do it.
Yep.
One thing I think I saw was an error in here. They quoted, they were sort of picking up the, I'm blanking out, the development plan, our ancient development plan that we have in place, and saying that in R1, they were saying student housing impact, blah, 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 RH, and they're talking about RH, and then they go on and they say, the plan recommends that there be more uses other than just single-family homes in R1, and I think what they actually are quoting is that there needs to be more economic opportunities for homeowners in RH. They said R1, so that's a misquote from the document.
You could submit that comment.
I'd have to
separately,
find
since
it. Again, I
Never
gotta
find
find
it.
it in here. Okay, do you think we're done with comments? You have any other general comments you'd like to add?
As it relates to the farmer's market, I thought the definition of what's going to be done was pretty high level.
Mm-hmm.
It takes an article of faith to assume that that's really going to be everything we hope it to be based on what's written. There's even less definition associated with that
Mm-hmm.
than the Durkee Street building that we spent so much time talking about.
Luckily, it's not in the middle of downtown. It's in the
Yeah.
middle of a bunch of really ugly water and
But it's
sewer
in a very
buildings.
strategic area,
It is.
Okay, yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's almost like an anchor for that strategic
Absolutely.
area.
Yep. So you'd like more detail in regards to the design and,
Yeah, I don't think we have to
Future.
overstate it. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request. Marissa, I was also wondering if Melena had any comments based on her review,
Mm-hmm.
Apart from what we
Well, I
already
think she did
talked
give us the
about.
one,
yeah, I mean,
the parking lot comment
I
on the
agree
side.
with most of your comments. I don't think I have anything major in addition to these. I've been reviewing this for a couple of weeks now and have already made my comments.
Yeah.
So.
Okay,
I'm-
so I'd like to make a motion. You could read what you have scrawled
I will.
to us, and then we can make a motion to incorporate that into the letter based on what you're reading to us.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the different projects here. So, for the Durkee Lot Mixed Use Development Project, you had a comment in regards to, community character. You believe that the materials proposed and the design proposed do not match existing, community character, and there's inadequate information, to make a determination whether or not it will be a significant adverse impact on the community.
Okay.
In addition, you had a comment in regards to parking. You felt it was a positive development to spread out the central parking throughout the downtown district to create equality throughout the business district downtown, or something to that effect. Not really sure where the irreversible, irretrievable
It's that
falls under
weird, yeah, you're gonna have to figure out what it's under
project.
in its sections and.
But in regards to that, that was on page 203, section 6.0, the irreversible, irretrievable commitments. You believe that needs some further clarification in regards to what the impact will be on downtown, the long-term effects of development. So for the Arnie Pavone lot, you had a comment in regards to pedestrian connectivity, in regards to the connectivity from Oak Street to Margaret Street, and whether or not the sidewalk was required or not, and if connectivity could be improved if it is required. And then for the farmer's market, you're requesting more detail in regards to design and future development of the proposed farmer's market building down at the Harborside location.
And what about the one-way
Oh, and that
Durkee
was my
Street?
last one. I skipped
Yeah.
over that one because it wasn't part of the Durkee
Yeah,
Street thing.
yeah.
Then also comments in regards to the connection issues. If Durkee Street is developed as a one-way street, and also some issues regarding loading for commercial vehicles, and would like some additional traffic routing alternatives proposed.
Yeah, I think that summarizes what we need in the letter. You just need to put it into its proper section, I
Yep.
guess. that-
Then I will draft that and I will send it around to everybody, and if you want to respond individually, we
Okay.
can do that.
Okay,
This isn't due until December 23rd, but there is an additional public hearing on Monday, December 9th here for people to come and comment. But we will obviously have this drafted and around to you guys before the due date of December 23rd.
okay.
Is it okay if we attend those meetings just to hear what the public comments are?
Absolutely. I encourage you guys to go on
Yeah.
Monday.
Seems like that might be helpful.
I'm excited about Thursday,
What's that?
that John Ross.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That should be exciting.
We've been talking for about 12 years about an aquarium project, working with the college, and yeah.
Really?
Oh,
I like what I read in the paper. It was just kind of like a tickler, if you will. You
Yeah.
know, it was exciting.
So we need a motion. I'm not gonna make a motion. Somebody needs to make a motion to create the letter based on what you just read aloud.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept, let's rephrase it. Make a motion that the board
Authorized.
authorizes staff to compose a letter based on comments that were made during this meeting.
That the entire board agreed to? Cause it's really not just random comments. I think it's
Yeah,
uniform
comments, yeah,
comments.
comments agreed by the present board members.
Do you second that?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Do you wanna call a name call, roll call?
Please. You wanna do
Roll
a
call?
Rick Barry,
Yes,
Brenda Carter,
Yes.
Marcel Gilbert.
Yes. Okay,
Alrighty.
motion to adjourn.
okay, do we wanna have Jim come back and do that? No, he's gone forever, okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Raj.
discussion.